everybody, Dee Dee the OT is here. This is my son Taj, and we are going to show you how to use a Swiss ball and or a peanut ball. So first I want to introduce the difference between the two balls. So this one is more round. This is a large one. There's different sizes that you can use. If you have a bigger kid, like let's say a 6-year-old and above, you would want a larger Swiss ball. If you have a smaller kid in preschool or isn't walking yet, you would want to use a peanut ball. And the reason for that is it allows for a straddle position on the ball where the feet are still touching the ground. So it gives a little bit more grounding. So either ball that you're using, if you decide to use a Swiss ball, try to get one where at least the tippy toes of your child can touch the ground. If you want to use a peanut ball, my son still won't touch the ground, but at least he would be closer to it. Okay, so why do we use a ball? So in occupational therapy, we use a ball for something called vestibular input. Vestibular input is basically talking to the system that allows us to maintain our balance and know where our body is in space. So if you see vestibular seeking behavior in a child, the way that presents is that they might do things like bang their head on things repeatedly, feel like they need to jump all the time, are really active, like to spin, like to put their head between their legs and look upside down. In school, this looks like the kid that falls out of their chair a lot, or the one that's always looking under their desk a lot, or the kid that is doing a lot of flips outside. And of course, all of those behaviors are normal, but when they become excessive or disruptive, sometimes the kid is trying to, or the student is trying to settle their nervous system and give themselves some vestibular input, which is what we are trying to help them do in appropriate ways in occupational therapy. So if you see that in a student or a child and you don't have access to a trampoline or a swing, this is an easy protocol to do with somebody on a Swiss ball, and it's easy to administer because you can put a Swiss ball away in a different part of the room. So what you want to start with in this protocol are some joint compressions. So you have your kid, you can sit with them on the ball, and you start with joint compressions. So this gets the body ready for some vestibular input. So joint compressions, you want to start from the middle of the body and work your way outwards. We call this proximal to distal. So you see how I'm starting at the shoulders and then going down to the hands, and then starting at the hips and going down to the feet. And I'm just putting firm pressure on all the major joints of the body. When you put firm pressure into the joints, it allows for neuro feedback of where the body is in space. So major joints in our body tells us where our body is. For example, when I stand up, I have a lot of pressure or weight pushing down on my ankles, and then my knees, and then my hips. And then I know, my body knows, oh, I'm standing up because I have weight pushing down into those major joints of my body. So this is how we just prepare our little kiddos for some vestibular input. We call that joint compressions or proprioceptive input, talking to the joints. So after we do our proprioceptive, we want to get our vestibular activated, and one way to activate our vestibular is to do some spinning. So you can either do this on an office chair or just hold on to your kiddo's body underneath their armpits and do a little spinning. So we're gonna do 3 turns one way and then 3 turns another way. You can go all the way up to 5 turns if you like, depending on what the kid enjoys. Okay, so what you're looking for in the child is that they're smiling, enjoying it, but not becoming too hyperactive, or should I say overstimulated. Then after that, you can get onto the peanut ball. If your kid needs a lot of support, like has low core strength, you would hold on to their hips and you begin to bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is a really good way to practice your numbers. You could also practice your letters, so you could do the whole alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So you decide how you want to do it. If you're on a Swiss ball, again, you would want your kiddo to have their feet on the ground. But if that's not the case, it's okay to hold them at the hips. And as you can see on this ball, now that I'm not supporting his back, he has to really use his core to get stabilized. So we're often looking for that core workout on a Swiss ball. And we want our kids' core to be strong because that helps with speech, it helps with writing, it helps with postural control. All those things are connected. So after you do a few bounces, let's say 20 to 30 bounces, then you can do that whole protocol again. So you go back to joint compressions. You go into some spinning. So again, you can do it on an office chair or just hold on to them. I know this looks wacky, but it actually helps with sensory diets. Okay, and then you move into your bouncing. Depending on the core and the height of your child, you can support them or let them try to support themselves. Another good way to work the core is you could go side to side. And he has to do something called writing reactions, meaning balancing himself back to center. If I wasn't behind him and I just wanted to hold on to him, I could do it like this, side to side. So see how he's getting his writing reactions in, back to front. He has to stabilize himself in the center. And then if I were doing it on a peanut ball, it's kind of the same idea. But they have their straddle. Let's say your kiddo can touch the ground, which would be awesome. That would offer some grounding. You can just slightly hold them and go side to side. So you see how he's getting his writing reactions, rebalancing to center, and working his core. Thank you, Taji. So now I just want to show you one more exercise that you could do for some core work. So let's say Taj is the therapist and I'm the kid. I would place, as the therapist, a couple toys behind them. And I'd say, can you get me, and I would say whatever it is that you want them to get you. So, can you get me the cup? If they need some help, you would hold onto their legs. They would reach back, get the cup, and then come forward and give it to you. Here you go, here's your cup. Get me the block. So they would reach back, get a block, and then sit up and bring it to you. So that works the core. Another fun game to do with that is like those Hawaiian leis you can put behind them and they can grab it. You can be holding onto their thighs and they would put the lei over your head, and you could do that 10 times. So that's a fun way to get some core engagement. Like I said, the core is important to keep strong, especially with children that are having attention issues, because oftentimes it's a low core or a weak core that promotes them to go and do seeking behavior because they aren't stabilized and don't have a lot of postural control to keep themselves where they are for an extended period of time. So to review, the protocol would be joint compressions, spinning, and then bouncing. And you can figure out however you want to do that and whatever combination you want to do. And before he goes, and with sensory diets, typically you want to provide that more in-depth input. So you want to give it kind of a strong input. So doing that for 10 minutes with strong, consistent input would be really good for them. And it's you want to start with about 3 times a day. So you do 10 minutes 3 times a day. You can set a timer if that'll help you. And then you want to start to do it in transition time. So let's say you're going from circle time to tabletop time. That would be a good time to do a sensory diet, the 10-minute sensory input. Or let's say you want to do it before dinner time when you're at home because they have a hard time transitioning to dinner. That would be a good time to do it. I wouldn't recommend it right before bed unless you see that it helps with that. So you can try it out if you'd like. Other than that, I hope that helps. This is for vestibular input and sensory diets. Thanks for coming.